Story 1. Creepy Woods. True story. So I don't really know how to start this story off, but it just happened like an hour ago, and I'm still spooked. So, a bit of a preface. Me and my friend are home alone right now and have been for a few hours. Every time he comes over, we go to the woods by my house, and it's normally uneventful, with some throwing rocks and breaking trees and stuff. Harmless fun. This time, something else happened. Like I said, we're home alone and have been for a while, and while this happened, we were obviously home alone. We went outside to go to the woods, and the trip there was uneventful, but once we got there was something off. Everything was dark, tons of trees had been knocked down, and the entire place was not like I remembered it being. We kept going in, still having our usual harmless fun, and at one point my friend turned to me and said we should go back. I looked at my phone and decided it had only been 30 minutes, and so we might as well stay longer, because it'll be a few hours until anyone would want us to be home. We continued on, finding a few strange things, like an old crushed Mountain Dew can, probably 10 to 20 years old, and a toy boat which had been completely destroyed by the wind and water and other things, and was probably even older than the can. Our plan was to go further than I had ever been into the woods, which isn't very far for us, because I've barely been that deep. After walking for a while, we came to a landmark I knew of that marked about the deepest I've ever been. A while ago, when I was going far in, I came upon a bridge built on a log that fell over a river in the middle of the woods. However, one thing was different. There was something sitting on top of it. Whatever was on it was small and resembled the head of an animal. When we got closer and got a good view of it, it was a deer skull, pearly white and clean, sitting on the bridge, with no clue as to who put it there and where the rest of it was. Behind the river there was a huge hill with a creepy small house on it, and while we were looking around, I heard a creak or some other high-pitched noise from up towards it. Freaked out, we began to run, and from behind me I hear my friend scream, and I hear him running. We both keep running, and once we reach the edge of the woods, we step onto the road. I asked him why he screamed, and he said he heard footsteps next to him. We quickly made our way home, and when we got there, the garage door was open. Not knowing if it was left open or not, we ran inside, locking the door, checking the house, and turning the alarm on. Now we're sitting here, and by the time I finish this, it's nearly 2 hours since, and I still can't shake the fear of that eerie woods from me. And if you would like more evidence that this happened, just ask my friend. Story 2. The Cottage in the Woods. Now this isn't a scary story, but more of a creepy one. My friend's dad's family used to live in the woods near Eureka Springs, Arkansas. My friend's uncle was the oldest of the 3 kids, and was allowed to explore the woods on his own, even though he was only about 9. One day he came across a little cottage nestled in the woods. He knocked on the door and was greeted by 2 old ladies. He promptly asked for some water, as he had been exploring for hours. The ladies invited him in and gave him milk and cookies and sat down and talked with him while he pet their white cat. They talked for a while, and they eventually invited him to stay for dinner and spend the night, because it was getting dark and he was away from home. His parents were pretty used to him being in the woods for nights without coming back, so he accepted without question. He spent the night without incident and returned home the next morning. He visited many more times over the next year, and one day they told him to bring his parents and brothers the next time he came. So the next week, the whole family embarked on the long trek to the cottage. When they arrived, however, they found the remains of a small cottage that appeared to have been abandoned for years. Everyone was very confused, as they all trusted that my friend's uncle had visited the women many times. They had absolutely no idea what had happened, or if my friend's uncle had actually been visiting anybody. To make things weirder, as they were leaving, an old, skinny white cat ran past them, darting into the trees, leaving them in utter shock. Story 3. Something in the Woods. I guess I'll start with a background. I'm a 33-year-old female, but this story takes place when I was a teenager living in a suburb of Chicago. The village I lived in was quiet and middle class. We lived like a mile from the police station, and the worst crimes we had were a murder or two and a robbery, once in a blue moon. 99% of the time, boring and more boring. Unless you had a car, you were stuck just walking around the park at night with your friends. Kind of boring. Anyway, one night my girlfriend and I decided to go hang out at a park with some guys at like 12 a.m. The night was a bit windy and had a full moon. I even got a kiss that night from the boy I liked. But the night wasn't just fun and hanging out late. There's a deep forest in the park with a stream with a playground right next to it. The same playground we went to, with swings and jungle gym columns. There's 2 bridges, one of wood, the one everyone uses, and one bridge made of rocks that's rarely used because it is deeper in the forest. It's over the stream, connecting the 2 halves of the forest/park area. I'll get to the rock bridge in a minute. We hung around on the swings and chatted and just spent the evening together. I'm sitting and just looking around, talking and enjoying the peace and quiet and the moonlight. I have a full view of the forest, and the dip of the earth that I know leads to the stream. I see something moving over that dip of earth. Some dark shape. It looked like it was crawling out of the forest. An arm, then another arm. It pulls itself out of the ditch/stream. A figure darker than the surrounding forest. And I'm sitting there, frozen. I think I'm seeing things. It just kind of lays there, on the ground, but doesn't move. A flash of fear grips me. What if it comes this way? I look to my friends and no one notices anything. I look back and it's gone. Did it go back or go somewhere? I really want to get out of there. Then one friend asks,
"Did you guys hear about the urban legend of the rock bridge over the stream?"
Apparently, some kids or something played on the bridge and fell over and died. What a thing to say after what I saw. But I didn't ask anyone anything and just pretended I didn't see anything. But the experience stuck with me. I never talked about it because it must have been my imagination. Things like that only happen in scary movies, right? I rarely went to the park after that. And Black Thing, if you are real, I hope we never meet again. Who knows what would have happened if you saw me at the same time I saw you. The end.